Hello, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. And welcome back to ACI 14. It's funny how people just arrive at the very last minute. I always try to be in class before class starts. I guess I still have to work on those seeds. Anyway, we're just gonna jump in. There's a lot to cover today, and so we'll just start. And the first thing we're going to start with is remembering why we're doing this. Because we want to create a perfect world for everyone, right? So imagine what that perfect world looks like. And with those images and thoughts in your mind and in your heart, let's offer this perfect world to every being in every world, right? And I'm going to recite it in Tibetan. And please join me in whatever language you want. Sashi Puki Jukshin Metok Chom Rirab Lingji Nende Genpadi Sange Shindu Mikte Uwargi Jokun Namdak Shingla Chaparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. So we offer a perfect world, and then we set our intention. Again, reminding ourselves of why we're doing this and what the seeds are that we're planting. Sange Jurang Soki Chuknam La Jangchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Dagi Junyen Gipe Sunam Ki Jola Penchir Sange Druparsho Sange Chunam Soki Chuknam La Jangchu Pardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Jinso Ki Pe Sunam Ki Jola Penchir Sange Drupar Shok Sange Churam Soki Choknam La Jangshu Bardu Dakni Kyapsu Chi Daki Chunyen Gipe Sunam Ki Jola Penchir Sange Drupar Shok. May what we study and listen to here today be of benefit for every living being. So in case you forgot, here we are in ACI 14, studying Lojong, which means how to develop a good heart, right? I'm moving things around on my computer a little bit here so I can see better. And we're on class 4, and we're going to talk about something called Lojong Dunduma. Say Lojong Dunduma. This is the 7 points of developing a good heart. So Lojong, we know, is developing a good heart, right? And Dunduma is the 7 points. Sometimes you might hear it called the 7-point Lojong, right? So we've just translated that word Lojong. Pabonka Rinpoche, in his great Lam Rim that many of us have been studying, and we just finished going through the book. What did it take? 14 years or something like that to go through it. And it is called Lam Rim Namdrel. But you probably don't know it by that name. You probably know it by a gift of liberation thrust into the palm of your hand. And it's written by Pabonka Rinpoche. Or they were classes, they were teachings given by him. And in that, he calls this the greatest Lojong ever written. And it's a very important Lojong, and it's a very beautiful Lojong. And if you notice in the name Duma, right, it ends in ma. Can you think of another another text that ends in ma? Another Tibetan text? Yes, Roxana, thank you. The Heart Sutra. It ends in ma. And why does it end in ma? Because it's a ma sutra. It's a ma text. And what does that mean? Who's the big ma in our life? It's our mother, right? Our ma, our mama. So books about wisdom often end in ma. Yes, Yevgeny, mama, right? They often end in ma because that's where the wisdom comes from. So it's really cool that this is a wisdom. It's designated just by that little word as a wisdom teaching. So there's a little bit of question about the lineage of this. So that's why there's a question mark there. But, it's always good to know what our lineage is. We can say, well, it came down from this person and this person and this person. And we know that it's not just something made up, right, by somebody recently. So in the catalogs of texts, it's really hard to figure out who wrote it. One person says this person, another person says this person, and there's a 1,700-year spread to choose from. 17 centuries apart. So how do you choose? So when Geshe was putting this course together for us back in, let's see, it probably would have been in the 90s, 1990s sometime. He didn't know who to attribute this Lojong to. So he went, of course, to his teacher, and he asked Ken Rinpoche if he knew. And Ken Rinpoche said, I don't know, maybe Geshe Chikawa. And Holy Lama looked at different texts, and he came across a beautiful biography. And it's a history of the Lam Rim teachers. And it has a story in it about Kadampa Geshe Chikawa Yeshe Dorje. As you can see, he lived 1101 to 1175, and he's also known as Chakapa. And he's reading this Lamrim, this trying to figure out who wrote the 7-point Lojong. Now, Geshe Chakawa was a very great scholar. Very early in his life, like from the time of 7 or 8 years old, he started studying. So he knew a lot. And he reached a point, even before he was in his 20s, where he had already memorized 100 major scriptures by heart. And he could recite them. And he understood the meaning of them. So in part of the biography, it says, at the bottom of his heart, after memorizing 100 scriptures, after studying all these things in depth, he felt like he was missing something to reach Buddhahood. And it troubled his mind. He wasn't happy, he couldn't sleep. He felt like something was missing in his life. And then he had the great fortune to meet another Geshe. And he studied the 8 verses, the Lojong in 8 verses with him. So after memorizing 100 major scriptures, he gets this little 8-verse thing. And he is just like amazed. He's just like freaking out. And it's like, that's what I've been waiting for. That's what I need. And he's so, so excited. And these are the days of the Kadampas. Remember, we talked about the Kadampas earlier. They were like, going into new places, new undiscovered places, new undiscovered spiritual places, and we're so excited. So he learns his 8 verses, and he wants to go and find the person who wrote it down or put it together. So he sets off for Lhasa to try and find Diamond Lion, Dorje Senge. They're contemporaries. They're living in the same, century, in the same time. He's going off on this big journey to find the person who wrote this book that he's just freaked out about. So he's going to give up everything. He leaves his home and he travels to Lhasa. And, traveling to Lhasa, traveling long distance was not easy in those days. It was either walking or by horse. But he leaves his home because he hears that Dorje Senge's in Lhasa. And he gets to Lhasa. And it says in the biography that he gained great faith in Langri Tangpa, meaning that he gained great faith in the person from Langri, right? Who is Diamond Lion. It's another name for Diamond Lion. And he went to meet him. He reached Lhasa, looking around for him, and people told him, I'm so sorry. He already passed away. And you can imagine how incredibly disappointed he was and how upset he was. He was like, now I can't learn the 8 verses from the person who wrote it. And then he asked around and he asks, who is there around who has gotten these teachings? Who of his lineage, of his students, is still around that I could learn the 8 verses from? Who is there that I could get to know? And maybe one of them among them is the most learned and understands the most. Do you know who they are? And so the people in Lhasa say, oh, it boils down to three different Kadampa scholars. And then they say, but there's this problem with those three in Lhasa. So publicly, it's known to be an open problem between them, and that they are all struggling to get the position of the throne. It's like, who's going to be number one man after Diamond Lion to take his place? So there's some trouble going on, some kind of thing going on between the three. And Geshe Chikawa hears about this and he gets really depressed. He says, if these people are trying to practice Lojo and there's a problem between them about who's going to be next in line, I'm going to leave. I'm just going to go back to Langri Tang, where he came from, where Diamond Lion came from, and see what I can find. So, as I said, Langri Tang, it's this plain, it's out in the west in Amdo somewhere or something. And he's all depressed. So he starts packing up and getting ready to go. And somebody comes and asks, why are you going? And he says, well, I heard about the problem between those three guys who want to be the next in line. They aren't practicing Lojong at all. Why would I want to study with them? And the person who came to ask him why he was leaving says, wait a minute. You didn't get the problem straight. You didn't hear the problem, which is true, right? He just heard there was a problem. And he says, they're all struggling to give it to the other guy. They're perfect Diamond Lion followers. The struggle that's going on is that each one is saying he's too stupid to be the throne holder and that the other guys are more intelligent and they're more wonderful and more talented. Oops. Let's fix that. I guess I can't move around very much. They're more talented. And I'm just some normal guy. They should take the throne. So that's the nature of the problem going on. And then he's like, oh, I have really found some people who are practicing this Lojong. And he decides to stay in Lhasa. And then he meets a Geshe named Geshe Sharawa. So I couldn't find a picture of Sharawa, but it appears that he is a grandson of Lord Atisha. So the picture on the left is Lord Atisha. And in between Lord Atisha and Sharawa, there is another great Lama called Geshe Patawa. And we'll talk about Geshe Patawa later. But just so you have, it's like, what does my family tree look like? So Sharawa is the spiritual grandson of Lord Atisha. And Geshe Chikawa goes to Geshe Sharawa and asks if he will teach him Lojo. Would you please teach me the Dharma? And so Geshe Sharawa teaches Geshe Chikawa for about 12 years, and he teaches him all the great scriptures of India, all the great philosophy books. Majjhimika, Prajnaparamita, Pramana, Vinaya, Abhidharma, the 5 great books. And he becomes a master of those books. And then he learns all the Lam Rim. So for 12 years, Sharwa is teaching him all the Lam Rim. And it's mostly in public assemblies to people, and Chikawa is joining in, just like we are here. And they're going through Lam Rim all the time and studying it. And then, as might happen with you, one day Geshe Chikawa goes to see his Lama, his teacher, and Sharwa says, I've decided that you are worthy to hear the secret Dharma, the real thing now. Now you are worthy. And he taught him the Lojong Don Duma. So it was a secret teaching up until this time. And that's why we can't find who wrote it. So what is our secret lineage? Our secret lineage begins with Tupuan, Tupe Wangpo, the Buddha, king of the able ones, right? And then the next one, why isn't it? Hello, there we go. The next one is Jampa, who is Maitreya, the future Buddha. And the next person in line is Tokme Kuchi. Now, who's Tokme Kuchi? They are the Sangha, not brothers. It should say brothers. I'll have to fix my typo there. And this refers to Master Asanga and Master Vasubandhu, who were half-brothers. And they lived around 350 AD. Together, they wrote about half of the original texts studied in the monasteries. Between these two brothers, they wrote the Abhidharma Kosha, the Abhisamaya Alamkara, and many of the books that are used and studied. They wrote all of the mind-only texts, right? They were written down by Master Asanga. And Master Asanga was also Lord Maitreya's secretary for the 5 great books, which include the Abhisamaya Alamkara. So in the monastery, they spend 4 years studying the Abhidharma Kosha, which Master Vasubandhu wrote. And then he also wrote, other great works on the Bodhisattva's life. Then the next person is Serlingpa. And the Serlingpa, Ser is gold, Lingpa is Golden Island. So he's the Lama of the Golden Island. And he lived early around 1000 AD. And he is the teacher of Lord Atisha. So Lord Atisha, who we were just talking about, traveled to the Golden Island. The Golden Island is Sumatra. And he traveled there to learn the lineage of the teachings on bodhicitta. So he's the grandfather of the Bodhisattva tradition. And they came to Tibet because of Serlingpa. Why? Because Lord Atisha took them to Tibet. So first he went to Sumatra in Indonesia, stayed there for at least 12 years, checking out Serlingpa. And then Serlingpa said, wow, if you've checked me out for 12 years, I should check you out for 12 years. I don't know if that really happened or not, but anyway, Serlingpa taught Lama Atisha, and then he brought those teachings and back to India and Tibet. And the next person is Jooj, right? Lord Atisha. And then his greatest student, Jongtam J, who lived, we're not again sure about his dates, but he was his Lama Atisha's most famous student, and he was not ordained. He was a lay person. And then we have Geshe Patawa. So with Dromten J, Geshe Patawa began to teach the Lam Rim publicly. Lojong was still taught only in secret to small groups of very, very carefully selected students. So from around 500 BC until 1100 AD, this is 1600 years, somebody is feeling that Lojong shouldn't be taught publicly to normal people. Why would that be? We're finding how rich these texts are. So the texts talk about it, and it quotes Master Shantideva, who says most people are not ready for the idea of exchanging themselves and others, right? That it's too scary to think about everything you do during the day, from the time you wake up to the time you fall asleep, should all be motivated by giving other people what they need, especially the Dharma. Right? It's too hard. People are just trying to make ends meet, and it's just too hard. And if we're on this path, our whole reason for being, our whole reason for staying on this planet is to give other people what they need. In this continuous outflow of stuff from you, doing it with no thought about what they can give us. What can I get out of this? And it was too profound and too difficult, and it shouldn't be taught in public because the public wasn't ready for it. Then we come to Master Sharwa, and he learned the 7-step Lojong from Geshe Patawa, and then taught it to Geshe Chikawa. Right. So Kadampa Geshe Chikawa, Yeshe Dorje, was an early Tibetan Buddhist, right? And Yeshe Dorje means like the spiritual friend of the land of diamond wisdom. Pretty cool name, right? And the Kadampa means that he's an early Tibetan Buddhist, along with Sharwa and Patawa. He was a great scholar, as I said, from a young age, who learned the 7-step Lojong from Master Sharwa. So now you have your family tree for this teaching. You can say that was my great, 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 great grandparent. right? It'd be cool to make a family tree out of it, right? Maybe somebody would like to do that as a nice art project. So what is it? It goes public, right? What is it? So it's hard to understand Geshe Chikawa's thoughts on it. It seems to be that he felt, and he kind of gets self-deprecating at this point because he says, who am I to guess who might be ready to hear this? I might make the wrong judgment, and then some holy person, some being who needs this teaching, might be deprived of it. How can I make that choice? So he decides that he'd rather teach it to a bunch of wrong people than miss a couple of people who really need it. And he decides to start teaching it publicly. So it breaks out into public teachings. It spreads to other Tibetan traditions. And it comes down to us through someone named Nucho Dharma Bhadra, Master Quicksilver. And if you stick with these courses, you'll hear this name over and over and over again. And from Lama Quicksilver, Nucho Dharma Bhadra, it's passed on to Pabonka Rinpoche, who spends many pages in his Lam Rim explaining it. And then from him, it goes to Kyabje Tricha Rinpoche, who is Ken Rinpoche's main Lama. And then who does Ken Rinpoche teach it to? He teaches it to Geshe Michael and other students as well, right? Who then teaches it to us, who taught it to me, and now I pass it on to you. So it's very strong in our lineage. And although these teachings are now taught publicly, it's important to pass them along with correct explanations, especially the mystical sounding sections that relate to emptiness. So I pass it on to you, and you are the next lineage holders. So you got to pay attention, right? Especially to the ones relating to emptiness and karma. So some of the verses are very hard to understand, and it's easy to misunderstand if you just read them. So we're going to go through the names of the 7 steps first. Roxana, would you read the Tibetan for us, please?
Of course. Nondrotum ki chotempa.
You can see it, okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
And if you, so Roxana is a much brighter and more knowledgeable about Tibetan than I am. So Roxana, if you see any mistakes, please let me know. Thank you. So Nuptro Tengi Chutempa means instructions on the foundation Dharma. And what we're referring to here are the preliminary practices. These are attitudes or contemplations, Dharma, right? That you do before you get to the main event. So the first step is to train in the preliminaries. The second one, Roxana, would you read it again for us?
Nön shi jang chup ki sem jongwa.
Thank you.
You.
It's hard trying to squeeze these onto the steps. So this is the main practice for developing the wish for enlightenment. And what is that main practice? Bodhicitta, right? So in the study of meditation, the main event means a meditative state. So here it's called main practice. What is the main function of Lojong in the Lam Rim structure? Anybody have a thought about that? Bodhicitta. Very simply, bodhicitta. And there's two ways that it's talked about. There's the 7-step, and there's Dakshin Namje, exchanging self and others. So Lojong in the Lam Rim comes with Dakshin Namje. That is the main event. Jangchub Kisem, the decision to reach total bliss on behalf of others. It's the best way and the best thing you can do for others. To clean up our own mind and make it pure. So those are two ways, one specifically from the Lam Rim, that reaching bodhicitta is spoken of. Now, there's also two kinds of bodhicitta. There's Kunzop and Dundam. There's Kunzop, which is the normal kind of bodhicitta, is just wanting to reach enlightenment so you can help others. Dundam, or ultimate bodhicitta, is the direct perception of emptiness. So anyone who wants to be a bodhisattva should have both. And both are covered in this lojong. Would you read us the next one as well, Roxana?
Kengen jang chup ki lam tu kerwa.
Thank you. So number 3 is transforming problems into the path of enlightenment. Use the obstacles in your life in your path. Change the obstacles to Dharma. And then number 4, Roxana.
Sorry, I don't see it on the screen.
You're right. How about that?
Zechiki nyamlen drilne tempa.
Thank you. So this is a whole lifetime's practice wrapped up into a nutshell. And number 5,
Lojong peitse.
and this is, how do you know when you've reached your goal of developing a good heart? Something really good to know, right? We want to know when we've gotten there. It's like, when do I get to, have I arrived in Sedona? Have I arrived, at bodhicitta? And number 6.
Lojong ki damchik.
So these are pledges, Damsik, to develop a good heart. So they're promises to ourselves that we will never give up developing the good heart. Cool? And then number 7.
러전키 랍차.
So this is advices on how to develop a good heart. Lapcha can also mean vows, right? What are vows? They're guidelines, they're advices, like do this and it will get you where you want to go. So they're advices. Number 7 are advices, little tricks for developing a good heart. So we're going to go back to the first one, to the preliminaries. What are the preliminaries? So there are 3 steps to training in the preliminaries. The verse says, train yourself first in the preliminaries. When we think of preliminaries, when somebody says, do the preliminaries, usually we think about the preliminaries to meditation. That's not what these are. The first one is to meditate on the fact you have a very short window of opportunity. So it means do something now, because that window will close quickly. Not last forever, right? At the moment, we're relatively healthy and have time to study and practice, but it's going to end quickly. It's very rare to have classes. And maybe it seems really, something very easy right now because you can tune into classes almost every day of the week, I'm sure. But it's not going to continue forever. So it's very rare to have so many chances to study with good people. Take advantage of it. Second one is to meditate on your death, right? It's not difficult to die. It's just a change in your mind, and it only takes a few moments. Your mind will be forced to see yourself dying, even if it's just not breathing for 3 minutes or so, right? It's amazing, really, that we're still here. Even a tiniest little infection can cause us death. So it's a miracle it hasn't happened yet, which, along with rebirth, is very hard to grasp unless you've studied emptiness and know that this world is only your projection. So realize your own mind is creating this world. Dying is just a change in your mental state. So you have to do something now. Don't wait. And then number 3, meditate on the problems of this world, of samsara, of this vicious circle of suffering, where we're happy and then we're sad, or we're healthy and then we're in pain, and goes round and round, up and down, right? We're all messed up. We're defective in our thinking, and that's why we're here. nothing will go right here, especially till you keep your vows. Once you start keeping your vows, if you keep them well, yes, sometimes it seems like things are getting worse because we're purifying things, right? Sometimes. But once we get through that, life tends to get sweeter and sweeter. That's my experience. And that's what all of the great teachers say as well. We have to escape this place as soon as possible by keeping our vows. It's kind of like we're crazy people in an insane asylum who need to figure out that we're crazy. And it's hard to do. And that's the first step, the preparation for this meditation manual. So meditate on the fact that you have a very short window of opportunity. Realize that death is just around the corner. And meditate on the problems of this world. Samsara. And then the second one is the actual practice. Let's see. It would be really nice if people turned on their videos. Would really appreciate that. Anna, even though you're recording, can you read this?
Hello, dear Venerable Gyelse. Hello, everyone. Yes, I can read.
Thank you.
The actual practice. Learn to see all things as a dream. Examine the nature of the mind unborn. The antidote itself is gone to is. Let it go in the essence, source of all things. In between sessions, be a figment of the imagination. Thank you.
So you can begin to see how you need someone to explain these. So you begin by getting ready for the main event with the meditation warm-ups. You take refuge, you make supplication, and this is where you visualize your teacher and ask them for help. You do the 7-step preliminaries to meditation, which are covered in the prayer that we do right before class, 7 steps, or right before meditation, not before class. It's also covered in Ganden Lagyema, the prayer of 1,000 angels of the heaven of bliss. And so you begin with breathing meditation to focus your mind clearly. These days, Geshe likes to count up to 100. So stay with your breath just to put it into neutral. And when you see your mind wandering off, just bring it back. That's the first training. It's not the main. And then after you have focused your mind, you get into the actual meditation practice. So this text, it sounds very mystical. And it's critical that the meaning is taught clearly. It's not some vague mystical thing. It all boils down to Buddhist logic. So these 5 lines are probably the reason that Lojong was kept secret. So either teach them carefully or keep them secret. Learn to see all things as a dream. Examine the nature of the mind unborn. The antidote itself is gone to is. Let it go in the essence, source of all things. In between sessions, be a figment of the imagination. So let's start with the first line of the verse. Learn to see all things as a dream. What does that mean? It means to realize that the outer world, especially our own body, is empty of having any nature of its own. It's an illusion. And that does not mean that things don't really exist and that you can do whatever you want, right? It means that the way the world seems to work to you is not correct. It's an illusion, a dream, right? If you want to get rich, don't go work really, be like a slave away at some corporation. It's not what you need to do. Give away what you have as generously and as beautifully and as effectively as you can. If you want to be healthy, take care of the sick. Don't go to the gym or buy vitamins. Not going to work unless you take care of the sick. If you want to be beautiful or handsome, meditate well and think about compassion for other beings. Why? It actually changes your inner energies. If you want to get what you want, take care of other people. If you want to get some handsome guy or beautiful woman, keep your sexual morality perfectly. This is how the world works. And all the other explanations are an illusion. Everything is empty. And what's really making things happen are your seeds. And I know you know this, right? I think we just have to hear it over and over and over again because we are so habituated to not thinking about that. A negative action cannot have a positive result. Killing the ants in the house can't make them go away. Our selfishness and failure to develop a good heart is what has created all the problems around us, like traffic jams, pollution, problems at work, problems at home, problems in our countries, problems in our world. And Jesus also said the same thing. He said, beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. hungry wolves, like really hungry. You will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? So every healthy tree bears good fruit. But the diseased tree bears bad fruit. A healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus, you will recognize them by their fruits. So this is the first thing. Recognize that the world is coming from your good seeds. To believe that the bad things in your world come from anything else is an illusion. And the same is true with the good things. And that's what this first line means. Learn to see all things as a dream. And it all boils down to you have to be a good person. That's all. Right? The next line, examine the nature of the mind unborn. This means, like your body and the outer world, your mind is also empty. We talked about it last class. Mental problems, low self-esteem, depression, anxiety, unhappiness, nervousness, worrying about the future, which hasn't come yet, feeling that nobody loves you, that you're not good enough, all come from not taking care of other people. And anything unpleasant or ugly in your mind is also a projection onto otherwise empty screen. Your mind also lacks any nature of its own. So it is unborn or empty. So if that's true, and as someone said in the chat, all the things about them that all the things I just listed are about them. Fix it. Fix the negativity in your own mind by taking care of others. Think about what others need. Just start small, as Master Shantideva says. Start with carrots and potatoes. And then our capacity grows. The third line, the antidote itself is gone to is. It sounds really sexy, but it's particularly dangerous. There were traditions in Tibet where they were told, go meditate on isness. Go meditate on this for 3 weeks, for 10 years. Do you get any closer? What is isness? Right? The antidote itself is gone to is. The antidote is the mind of wisdom that understands emptiness. It understands the emptiness of the outside world and the emptiness of your own body and mind. You and your world are nothing other than projections forced on you by what you did in the past. Gone to is means that sooner or later you will have to realize that wisdom itself is also empty. I'll say that again. Wisdom is not self-existent. It is also empty. It's also a projection being forced on you by your own good deeds. And not even the antidote is self-existent. The object on which your mind is focused is empty. The mind itself is empty, and understanding in that mind is also empty, meaning the understanding of emptiness is itself a projection. So he's flirting here with one of the 5 paths. Right? Anybody have some thoughts on which of the 5 paths he might be flirting with? Or maybe let's go through them first. There is the path of accumulation, the first path, called Soklam. Say Soklam. Soklam is basically achieving renunciation and bodhicitta. And these are like 5 levels of spiritual realization that every person on this Zoom call wants to go through. The second path is the path of preparation. On the path of preparation, we're understanding emptiness intellectually. And it's preparing us for the path of seeing, Tonglam. Okay? Seeing emptiness directly, the direct experience of emptiness. Excuse me. And then the 4th path is Gomlam, or the path of habituation. Habituation, Gom, meaning using what you saw directly to wipe out your negativities. And then the 5th path is no more learning, Miloblam. And this is where you reach nirvana and Buddhahood. So out of these 5 paths, which of them do you think he's been describing? Which is he hinting at? We're talking about, what were we talking about? Yes, no, not the path of seeing. He's talking about the path of preparation, which is gaining an intellectual understanding of emptiness, that my world and me are empty of any self-existence. So it's thinking about that over and over and using it in our interactions with others. My mind is empty. I'm being forced to see myself in the way I am because of how I treated others in the past. I'm seeing my world is empty. What I am seeing in my world comes from how I treated others in the past. It gives us this beautiful guideline of how to create that world that we offered at the beginning of class, that perfect world. Right? So that's what he's hinting at, is understanding as deeply as you can the emptiness of the world and of yourself and every being in the world. And as we work with that more and more, it will eventually push us over into the third path, the path of seeing. It's very cool. And then we are stream enterers and we're on our way out. And then the next line is, let it go in the essence, source of all things. Again, really sexy and vague. Let it go means two things. Try to let go of or overcome the problems of meditation. We have gupa, which is distraction, like thinking about what you're going to have for breakfast or what you're going to do today. And then we have jingwa, or dullness. Right? Dullness due to not getting enough sleep or eating too much. That's on the gross level. Or more subtly, having your mind just be spaced out. You know, you're meditating, you're breathing nicely, you're sitting still, but you're not thinking clearly about anything. And this kind of dullness is much more dangerous than the dullness from not having enough sleep or eating too much, because it's a nice sweet spot and it becomes a very bad habit and it's hard to break, but it gets you nowhere except just sitting kind of mindlessly. Maybe it relaxes you a bit, but it doesn't help you get any closer to understanding emptiness. So let it go here means working hard to avoid these two obstacles. The second meaning, the second meaning of let it go is that you will reach a point where you can let go of the perception of things as being self-existent. And then move into the direct perception that things are not self-existent. So in essence, source of all things refers to the direct perception of emptiness. So this line moves you from the second path to the third path, from the path of seeing, or the path of preparation, to the path of seeing emptiness directly. In between sessions, be a figment of the imagination. It's kind of weird, isn't it? I'm just a figment of the imagination. I don't have to keep my morality. What was path 3 that we just talked about? Tonglam, right? The path of seeing. And this sentence refers to a specific spiritual level. It is called, oops, let's go back. Geshe, subsequent wisdom. This is the second half of the third path. The wisdom that comes after, or subsequent wisdom. So you go into meditation, you've been studying Chi Rock. The story goes that you've been studying Chi Rock. You're making tea, you're boiling water on a pot on the stove, and you're looking at it, and all of a sudden you realize that it's this image coming out of your own mind. And then you take your lama, the tea that you've been preparing, and then go into meditation to think about what you just saw, which forces you into the direct perception of emptiness. Most of you have probably heard Geshe tell his story of his experience of the direct perception. When you come out of those 20 minutes of meditation, for the next 10 or 12 hours, you have a set of spiritual realizations grouped together called the 4 Arya truths. They're also known as the 4 truths. So you are having 65 discrete mental impressions per finger snap. To form a new thought happens every few milliseconds. Up until this time in your whole life, you've never had a single correct or accurate perception. If you were to multiply your whole life that you've lived already, times the number of minutes, hours, days, months, and years of your life, not one of those impressions was accurate. You realize that the day you see emptiness directly, you see that. And you see that your belief that the things around you come from their side and not from your projections infects every single perception you have. The direct perception of emptiness is the first correct perception you ever have. And when you come down from this maybe 15, 20-minute experience, you go back to seeing things as self-existent, but you know you're wrong. When you come out of Geshe, you then enter the 4th path, right? Where you use the certain knowledge that you gained from the direct perception. that things are empty, to permanently overcome the perception of things as self-existent. It typically takes 7 lifetimes if you don't do Diamond Way. So on the 4th path, you're getting used to what you saw to get rid of this tendency to see things as self-existent. And when you have overcome that tendency, you've reached nirvana. So on the 4th path, the whole world appears as a figment of the imagination. And that is the ultimate meaning of illusion in Buddhism. It is the Arya's knowledge that the world isn't what it looks like. It's not self-existent. So this one line is very, very deep. Don't forget the real meaning of it. It doesn't mean go around thinking you're like a ghost or something, a figment. And it especially doesn't mean that morality doesn't matter or something like that, which is a really, really evil way to teach this line. It means for that kind of person, at that high state, the world looks like that. They know it's a figment of their imagination. Meaning something forced upon them by their past karma. A perception forced upon them by their past karma. Right? They know that, and they will never believe anything else again. I don't know. We're not going to finish class on time today. There's a lot here. I'm sorry. And then the next line is practice giving and taking alternatively. Let the two ride on the wind. So this is one of the first written appearances of Tonglen. And Geshe Chikawa is writing it down for us. Then he says, 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 stores of virtue. Practice throughout the day in words, the order of takings to start with yourself. So the second line, practice throughout the day in words, means that if you have had the teachings on how to do Tonglen, right, then use them. The first Dalai Lama, Lobsang Chukyi Gyaltsen, gives a very holy instruction where you repeat the meditation in prayer all day long while you walk around. All day long, as you look into each person's face, you fantasize about taking away their problems with your breath. Sucking it into your nostrils and down into your chest, and then poof, destroying it immediately. Take all the worry and pressure and stress away from the people you see all day long. And then you breathe out happiness and everything they ever wish. So that's practice throughout the day in words. The order of takings to start with yourself. This means that in your morning sitting meditation, you envision the pain you will face during your day, and you take it away from that suffering person. So you begin doing Tonglen by practicing on yourself. So we haven't talked about the 3 objects, 3 poisons, and the 3 stores of virtue. So we're going to do that line next. So the 3 objects. These are, so let's read this. Yul, Yiduong, Myong, Barmasum. Yul is objects. Yidong is pretty. Myong is not pretty. Barma, it means in between. And Sum is 3. So these are the 3 things everyone here and everywhere are focusing on. Pretty things we like, things we don't like that are not nice, and things or people you don't care about either way. So pretty things, ugly things, and things in between. So these are basically the 3 things that every one of us is focusing on all day long. I like this, I don't like that. And that I don't really care about. I want this, I don't want that. That one I'll just ignore, right? So those are the 3 objects. The 3 poisons. Last class, we talked about the 5 poisons, right? They included the 3 poisons. Chak, Timuk, Sum. Ignorant liking, ignorant disliking, and ignorance itself. It doesn't mean liking things, disliking things, and being ignorant. It doesn't mean desire, anger, and ignorance. Chak, ignorant liking, means to like the nice things in an ignorant way, which means you don't understand where this nice thing has come from. And you would do something wrong to keep it or hurt someone to get it. Okay? We misunderstand. Better word for Timok is misunderstand, right? We misunderstand where the good things are coming from, where the things we don't like are coming from. So, tongue, disliking things ignorantly means you would hurt someone to get away from something you don't like. You think the Buddhists dislike things like that other beings have to go to hell? Of course. But not ignorantly, not misunderstanding it, right? Why those beings see themselves having to go to hell. And then Timok is the state of mind that fails to understand where things are coming from. So we've had the 3 objects and the 3 poisons, and now the 3 stores of virtue. Well, maybe we are going to end class on time. So the 3 stores of virtue. Chakdang Timuk Mepe Getsa Sum. What are the 3 virtues that you can get out of these 6 stupid things? 6 crummy things that have come already. the 3 objects, and the 3 poisons. Now he's talking about 3 nice things. So at this point in the meditation, right, the 3 virtues are your practice of taking away the 3 poisons from other people all day long. So you're supposed to be sucking in the 3 poisons from other people as they are focusing on the 3 objects, the things they like, don't like, and frankly don't care about. Right? You're sucking it in and destroying it. Right? By doing this practice, you collect incredible virtue. And that is the opposite to the things you are taking away from these people. And then the third step, transforming problems into the path. Janet, would you read this for us, please? Give me a break.
When the world and those in it are full of bad deeds, learn to use problems as the path to enlightenment. The blame all belongs to only one person. Practice seeing them all full of kindness. See the deception as being the 4 bodies. Emptiness is the matchless protector.
Thank you. The blame all belongs to one person. You know who this is talking about, right? If you don't like the things that are happening in your life, keep your vows better. See the deception as being the 4 bodies. Emptiness is the matchless protector. This is the step on how to use problems as a spiritual path. We talked about it earlier, the obstacles, right? Deception means that it looks like if you lie, it can get you money. It looks like if you kill bugs in your house, it will be clean. It looks like if you get the guy at work in trouble, everything will be all right for you. According to Buddhism, a negative deed cannot lead to a positive result. The 4 bodies includes a Buddha's foxy body that stays in their paradise, their beautiful paradise body. The emanation bodies a Buddha sends out then they send out copies of themselves throughout the universe to anyone who needs it. This is the Nirmanakaya. The one that stays in the paradise is called the Sambhogakaya. The third one is the omniscience of a Buddha's mind. The 4 bodies here also refers mainly to the Dharmakaya, which is the emptiness of the other 3 bodies of a Buddha. They're not really physical bodies. It's the word they use, but it's kind of misleading in a way. It's And what they're talking about here is the fact that the body you have now could have been the paradise body, an emanation body, and omniscience bodies. That's the emptiness. That's the Dharmakaya. It's your emptiness. It's your Buddha nature, Sukarta Gaba. Remember that from 2 days ago? Therefore, emptiness is your real protector. Paintings, statues cannot help you. If you understand that your world and your body and your mind are empty, anything bad that comes to you is a projection of your own mind, forced on you by your past karma. If you understand that, your natural reaction will be to learn and keep your pratimoksha, bodhisattva, and diamond wave vows. Then the emptiness of the world will be your protector and your savior. Because what you see is blank and it's only projected by your mind. So when your boss screams at you, first think, emptiness, emptiness, emptiness. Right? So these are hard lines that we've gone through today. We didn't go through everything in the reading, but I think you can figure out the rest for yourself. And so the homework, your meditation homework, is to do an analytical meditation on giving and taking and focusing on taking the 3 poisons of yourself from yourself later in the day. So say you're sick right now. Meditate on taking your sickness away later in the day or whatever it is, right? All right, that was a lot. Let's offer this beautiful world we're making by studying these things and putting them into practice. Sashi Puki Jukshin Metok Drum Rirab Lingshi Nyande Genpadi Sangye Shingdu Mikte Urwargi Jokun Namdak Shingla Chupar Shok Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamnirya Tayami Gewadi Kewokun Sunam Yeshe Sok Sok Shing Sunam Yeshe Lejungwe Dampa Kuni Topar Sho. All righty, that's what I got for today. Go out and use it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for those of you who turned on your cameras. It's so nice to see live people to teach to rather than just pictures. It's like it makes all the difference in the world when we're not able to be together in person. So it's just really nice to be able to see people. And sorry we went a little bit over, not just 4 minutes. There was a lot to get through today, and I noticed that I was rushing through it, and Kadrin kept asking me to slow down. But I think we would have been here another half hour later if I hadn't been going fast. And also, I get really excited. So, thank you. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for believing in this stuff and making this world a better place. Thank you, translators, interpreters. Thank you, tech, everybody who is recording this for people in the future. Thank you, Noan, for translating into Vietnamese. Let's see who else is here. I think people have left, so thank you all. Have a good 2 days until our next class, and see you next week. Don't want to take any more of your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, teacher.
Спасибо за перевод, дорогая Катерина.
Спасибо, это было невероятно.
Рада всех видеть. Хорошего вечера. До свидания.